time to enter UFC 280. Let's talk about the main event of the evening for the UFC lightweight title. Oof, I hate looking at that number
I
one
know.
next to Charles, but we got to be technical around here. Charles Oliveira, technically no longer the champion, but he is. The champion has a name,
Yes.
and it's Charles Oliveira. Now, he is technically not making a title defense here. He is trying to reclaim the title that he lost after his last fight with Justin Gaethje, where he came in a half pound over the 155-pound championship limit. So he will be looking to get that title back, but he has to get through the man who has been crowned for years, it seems like, as the follow-up to Khabib, the man who is going to carry that mantle, the future of the division, Islam Makhachev, ranked number 4 in the division right now. Oliveira, long-term champion at this point, underdog, plus 155 as it stands on PointsBet Sportsbook. Islam, minus 193. Some interesting odds there, Dominic, and I'm curious, as you have quite a pulse on this community, you definitely know the ins and outs. You seem to understand what the common man or woman who watches the sport believes and thinks. Why is Islam Makhachev such a heavy favorite here?
Yeah, I know, right? That's honestly such an interesting question because from a fan standpoint, all you see, Charles Oliveira this, Charles Oliveira that, champion has a name, you get it, you got what I'm saying. But Makhachev closing at almost a 2-1 favorite in this fight. He's on a, 10 fight win streak. Charles Oliveira on an 11 fight win streak. Why is Islam the favorite? I still feel like that whole protege of Khabib is got to be the biggest reason, though. It really does, because when you look at both these win streaks compared to one another, the stronger of the two in terms of resume does go to Charles. Charles is the champion. He's had numerous finishes in a row now against top 5 level opponents. Everything that you really look at goes to Charles' way, but you have that whole entire storyline, that camp behind Islam. I really feel like that sways these odds more than the skill set itself, because Charles has been the underdog time and time again, been the underdog in probably every single championship fight that he's had, and he's won every single one of them. But yet the odds makers don't give a damn, and they're putting him at plus 155 here on the PointsBet app. It's very interesting. I don't necessarily disagree with Islam being a favorite. I could see it going either way, but being an almost 2-1 favorite after everything we've seen Charles go through in these fights and still come back and win, that's where I think you lose me on this one. I think this is as even money as a fight on paper in terms of the styles as I think you can have. It is literally, as I already said, the intro, the fight of the year for me, for a lot of people. And two worlds are going to collide. Noah, the hype, it's been building for so long. Now we finally get to see it, knock on wood, that is, in 3 days. Give me your thoughts on these odds before we break down the X's and O's.
I understand.
Yeah.
And I fully expected this to be the case. The odds have actually closed a little bit, I believe.
That's true. They did.
I believe when this fight opened, Charles was a legit 2-1 underdog.
Yeah.
Maybe even more than that. I understand. Islam has looked fantastic.
Yep.
He's got one loss in the UFC, but that was way back in the day. Kind of got caught.
Yeah.
Besides that, he smash. I mean, he's very Khabib-like. He does not fight the same way as Khabib,
right,
necessarily. I mean, they definitely have their strengths that kind of coincide, but he's a much more elusive, a much more finesse fighter, while Khabib is pure like strength and just aggression. Islam, a little bit different, not quite as sized. Definitely uses more speed, has some very interesting offense that he puts together. With that being said, Dominic, I love these odds. You want to know why I love these odds so much?
Why?
Because people will say, I'm done counting out Charles Oliveira. I keep hearing this shit. Oh, I counted him out against Michael Chandler, Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje. I'm done counting him out. And then what's the next words that they say? But Islam's going to win this fight.
Right. Yeah.
You're counting him out by saying that.
Yeah.
And I hope that people put their money where their mouth is. That minus 193 ain't too much.
Yeah, true.
Put some money on that if you really believe so, because I did.
Yes,
I
you did.
put the biggest wager in this show's history, in my personal betting history, on Charles Oliveira money line.
Yeah.
The facts are the facts here. 11-fight win streak for Charles Oliveira against some of the greatest competition, the greatest fighters of this division as it stands.
Yeah.
Islam Makhachev, very impressive
Yeah.
to go 10 fights in a row without losing. But I'm just going to ask the question. I'm going to go for it here.
Okay.
Who's Islam Makhachev's best win?
If I had to answer that, I guess I'd probably go Dan Hooker. But yeah, I'd probably go Dan Hooker. In terms of name
Dan
value
Hooker.
specifically, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think you would probably be right in that assessment. Now, I like Dan Hooker.
Yeah.
Dan Hooker's a good fighter. I think some people are kind of writing off Dan Hooker. Maybe they shouldn't. But with that being said, compare that to the wins of Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, Michael Chandler, Tony Ferguson, who was still
Yeah, at that
just
time.
one loss into that streak he was on. Kevin Lee before that. Yeah, I know he's not in the UFC, but still a good fighter.
Yeah.
Charles Oliveira is born and bred for this moment. He has faced the fire time after time. He's been counted out. He's been knocked down. He's been nearly finished. And he still comes back
Yeah, crazy.
and puts them away. And you may believe that Islam Makhachev is ready for this moment. That Islam Makhachev it's not a matter of if he becomes champion, but when. And you know what? I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to agree with you that it is a matter of when Islam Makhachev is going to be champion. But unfortunately for Team Habib, win is not this Saturday, because he is going up against one of the best fighters in the entire company. And I'm going to take it a step further. The most dangerous man fighting today.
Yeah, yeah. And this is a sport full of dangerous men and women, Noah.
Yes.
So that is a bold claim, and I would have to agree. And having the all-time record for submissions, the all-time record for finishes, probably hints toward that dangerous tagline that you put on Charles there. This fight is just so intriguing because, as I was digging this morning, and I'm taking down these notes, 11-fight win streak for Charles, 10 for Islam, comparing the wins and losses, great competition on both sides, yes, stronger towards Charles. But I'm like, the fight as a whole, how often do we as MMA fans get blessed to see two fighters coming in on streaks like this? Both double-digit win streaks. No, it's almost unprecedented. I had to do some digging. The only one that I could think of in my head and had to look up to make sure it was right, Daniel Cormier, John Jones for the first time. DC was 15-0. John had won 11 straight, even though he was technically undefeated, but that was after the Matt Hamill thing. 15 versus 11. That was the only other one that I feel like is even close to rivaling this type of streaks coming together at UFC 280. This is a special moment. It's a special fight, and I'm so glad that it does feel like they're getting that shine, because they 1,000,000% deserve that shine. So it's just great to see that as a fan.
Yeah, and I'm gonna calm back down, because
back
I
down.
completely understand Islam does have a great chance at winning this fight. He does.
Yeah.
But I saw an interesting comparison on, I want to say it was on Twitter, and I want to see what you think of this. And I know you're not much of a boxing guy, but do you remember when Floyd Mayweather boxed Canelo Alvarez? That's happened.
Yeah, I do
before.
know it's happened.
Okay.
Yes.
And that happened back when Canelo was sort of pegged as the future, but he had yet to really hit that level.
Okay.
And then he goes up against, one of the best boxers of all time.
Yeah.
And, Floyd just sort of boxed circles around him.
Right.
I do wonder if there's a little bit of that in this fight. Now, I'm not trying to compare Charles Oliveira to Floyd Mayweather. I mean,
Right.
there's a lot of holes in this comparison. But what I'm trying to say is, I agree with people when they say Islam's a future champion.
Mm-hmm.
Inevitable.
Yeah.
But is it really going to be against this guy, Charles Oliveira, in this moment on Saturday night?
Yeah.
I just don't believe this is his time. He's got the route. He's got fantastic wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And if he does get the top position, I know Charles amazing jiu-jitsu, has a great bottom game. You even saw in the Justin Gaethje fight, those 2 knockdowns that Gaethje was credited for was really Oliveira getting tagged and going, okay, I'm going to be smart here, go to my back.
Come
down to me.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't do it, obviously. But I do think if Islam holds that top position, I do think that it'll be probably a long night for Oliveira.
Yeah.
But when this fight stays standing, as every round starts that way,
Yeah.
I think Oliveira's pressure, I think the evolution of his offense, his aggression.
No, his power. Severely underrated. I mean, we're getting to see it lately, but I still would say it's underrated.
Justin Gaethje said it was the hardest he had ever been hit in his career, and that man's been hit by some people.
Yes, he has.
I think if Charles keeps that pressure going, keeps Islam on the back foot, I think he can finish this fight the way he said it today, first round knockout. I really believe that.
Yeah, he's been Babe Ruthin, pointing that baseball bat to the field. He's saying it multiple times. First round knockout, Islam Makhachev's getting put to sleep. And we've seen Charles face all of this adversity too, so there's something about seeing someone go through the fire and come out the other side not unscathed, but with the win, with the belt around his waist, and we just haven't really seen Islam face adversity during this win streak. Like you said, in his loss many years ago, he kind of got caught, right? It was a good shot, he went down, you lose. Sometimes it happens. But during this win streak, I mean, maybe like the fight with Arman Tsarukyan, that was the closest fight that he's probably had, but that was many years ago. That's not the Arman Tsarukyan that we're seeing now. So it's just like, we've seen Charles answer all these questions. So if you're an Islam fan or just an MMA fan, you kind of want to see Islam go through it. Can he weather a storm from Charles and pull out an Oliveira against Oliveira? That's another whole other storyline here that we could potentially see. What are your thoughts on if Charles can do that, kind of reverse the role from what we've been seeing happen to him?
So if he can be the one...
Like, well, you kind of put it, right? Putting Islam on his back foot. Can we see Islam get through that fire like we've seen Charles do?
Okay. Let me first by making a blanket statement here. Because I know that we have from just previous episodes in the comment sections, the Islam fans are probably going to burn me at the stake.
This. Yeah,
they are going to burn me at the stake. And I understand it. Like, again, I support your guy. You should.
Yeah.
When I'm talking about the win streak and who's his best win, I fully understand it's not his fault that he has not fought the level of competition that Charles has. He's tried.
Yeah.
He's tried. I mean, he was supposed to fight Beneil Dariush.
Yeah.
Obviously, Dariush broke his foot. That's when Bobby Green stepped in on very late notice. Islam made quick work of him. Bobby Green didn't even land the shot, I don't think.
Yeah, so he's fight RDA a couple times, didn't come to fruition.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not like he's the one. He's not a pull-out merchant or whatever.
Right.
He's not avoiding big fights. I mean, the only time that I feel like we could ever point to where Islam didn't look great due to a fight falling through was when he was supposed to step in the spot that Moicano ended up taking against RDA.
Yeah,
and it turned out it was more of a, I don't know. He really wasn't going, like he was kind of acting like he was going to take the fight, but really had no interest in it or something. I don't know. But again, you can't really put anything on him for that. And every person he's fought since that loss back in the day, he's made them look arbitrary.
Like a lesser man.
Yeah, I mean, even the Arman fight you're talking about, that might be one of the more competitive fights he's had because it got to the scorecards. But at the end of the day, I mean, it was a clean sweep.
Yeah.
And that's Arman Tsarukyan. Yes, I know he's a much better fighter now, but so is Islam. Islam is still a young guy. This was much younger versions of themselves at the time.
Yeah.
So I guess what this all boils down to, Dom, what I want to ask you, I don't know if I really even addressed your question. I understand
You're
now.
good. You're good.
I understand now the
Yeah.
struggle you face sometimes of addressing my questions.
Sometimes
I
you
get
just
it
got to
now.
ramble, man. You got to go.
But my question is, based on everything we've talked about, I feel like I know your answer, but Islam winning this fight, do you agree with my mindset of Islam winning this fight would show us something he has yet to show us?
Yes. Yes, 100%. It's obviously the biggest test in terms of competition. I think he is going to have to face adversity essentially for the first time, meaning that if he wins, he would have gotten through it. So yes, 1,000,000%. And on the other side, if Charles Oliveira wins this fight, he's the best lightweight of all time.
Wow. Wow.
Sorry, that one came out quick.
That one, you ripped that Band-Aid off. I mean, I'm the one over here making proclamations and
I just
guarantees.
wanted to throw it in really fast. That's all. Yeah.
Whew,
And by the way, that's, Habib's in Islam's corner, by the way, just so everybody knows. So,
wow.
yeah.
I'm coming out here with the takes today, man. I like it. I like it. I thought I was going to be the one really putting myself on the line. And then Dominic said, brother. Damn, he's like, I got you too.
Yeah,
he said, Charles, best lightweight of all time. Take that, Habib. And now, so he's trying to take some of that fuel off of me. So I appreciate it. No, that was you jumped in front of a bullet for me right there.
Yeah.
But no, we really do have to start asking ourselves that. Like, I understand the past is still a part of the story. It's still a part of his legacy.
Mm-hmm.
But just like how we consider someone like Anderson Silva to be at worst top 3 fighter in UFC history.
Yes.
Yes, we count some of those losses he had at the end, but we don't make that the focal point. The focal point is how he was in his prime when he was setting records and running through everybody.
Yeah.
Same with Charles Oliveira, it's almost just the opposite. It's early in his career, he had his struggles.
Yes.
The weight misses, it was not great.
Mm-hmm.
But for his legacy, right now, this is where he's building it. The bulk of it, anyway.
Yeah, and let us not forget that most of those struggles came at 145. At lightweight,
that's true.
Not unblemished, but pretty damn close to unblemished.
Yeah,
so,
I think I could be wrong. I was going to say his only loss at lightweight is to Paul Felder.
Yeah, let's see. Before that, he lost to Ricardo Lamas. He's not a lightweight, so yeah.
I know he lost to... Didn't he lose to Anthony Pettis at some point?
He lost to Pettis, yeah.
That might have been featherweight. But the point stands that I agree with what you're saying. I don't know if I would quite say best lightweight of all time. I have to see the fight play out first. But I appreciate your putting your neck out there like that. That's what we need around here. We need a little bit of talk, a little less talk, a little more action. And you did both right there.
I'm telling you, man. I mean, the legacy status for this fight it's big, massive implications. Like I said, if Charles wins, I think he's the best lightweight ever. Gets the belt back. If Islam wins, he continues the streak. He puts away his toughest test to date. He carries on the torch that Habib passed to him. It doesn't get better than this fight.